Thank you for tuning in. My name is Evan.
I'm Jonathan.
And you are listening to the Tackling Basketball Podcast. We once again have our buddy Micah on the program today. Say hello, Micah.
Hello.
We are, of course, very excited to have him because he provides such great input, especially around the NBA. NFL maybe a little less so, but we'll get to that. It's fine. We are, of course, going to start out with our GOAT and Dicks of this week. Micah, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with your GOAT of this week?
My GOAT of the week, which I never would have thought I would have said this like 5 years ago, but the Houston Rockets.
Oof.
I think they had one of the best free agencies, at least openings, as far as signing new people. Fred VanVleet at his very large contract.
Yeah.
Dylan Brooks at, again, probably more than I would have spent for him. And Jeff Green. I think all of them are going to make the Rockets a whole lot better. Dylan Brooks obviously brings a lot of defense. Fred VanVleet to just control the floor and be a leader. Jeff Green to just be a mentor to Sengun, Jabari Smith, and Jalen Green, who are all really good young players. Like, they were 14th in the West last season. I don't know if this is enough to make them even a playoff team, but it is still a lot of good moves for where they're at, and I think in a few years we'll make them a very good team with some of these young players.
Absolutely. And for those that don't know, this is extreme personal growth here for Micah to acknowledge the Rockets doing anything positive. So that's good to see.
Yeah.
Jonathan, over to you, though, for your GOAT of the week.
You know, I tried to work in the new CBA a little bit, and I'm sort of torn on whether it's a good or a bad thing, especially when it comes to like the mid-season tournament. But I do think that this anti-flopping attempt is a bonus for basketball fans. It'll be really hard to properly police. I have a little bit of a fear that it might disproportionately affect smaller markets who often use flopping as a way to sort of let the refs know when they're horrible at their job more than it is to actually get foul calls when they actually don't deserve it. But as we've seen in this new CBI, it looks like any call that can be considered a flop will result in one technical free throw and then possession for the opposing team. So that's going to be a huge disincentivizer for a very non-basketball move. And hopefully it only has positive effects on this league and just the quality of the game.
Just a shame Jeff Van Gundy won't be able to watch it. How long he's been pushing for it.
Right.
Oh, well. Only took him getting fired for them to implement it. It's fine. For my GOAT, I have baseball fans, and I came up with the idea to GOAT an entire sport fan base first. Jonathan copied me. I promise I'm not copying him.
Well, then why did I come first?
But I put baseball fans down because there are very few things that the MLB does better than the NBA and NFL. In fact, you can argue it's literally just this one, and it's that MLB All-Star Weekend is better than the Pro Bowl or better than NBA All-Star Weekend. And it used to be the NBA All-Star Weekend probably took the cake. The dunk contest was the biggest All-Star event there was, but now the dunk contest sucks, and the Home Run Derby is king of All-Star festivities. And this year, once again, the field is absolutely insane. You got Luis Robert Jr., Ali Rutschmanson, Adolis Garcia, Randy Arozarena, Pete Alonso, two-time champ, Julio Rodriguez, the reigning champ, Mookie Betts, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr., all a bunch of very young guys with tons of power who are showboaty and lots of fun. And I guess you can also equate this to the MLB has done a better job of getting their young players to buy in to representing the league and wanting to please the fans. Because the NBA doesn't have that with the dunk contests. None of the young, explosive guys really care to participate in it versus the MLB Home Run Derby, where all these young home run hitting guys want to go out there, hit dingers, cheer up the crowd. I mean, Pete Alonso a couple years ago at Coors was literally dancing during his timeouts and hyping up the crowd, would step back up to the plate and crush a 500-foot home run. That's what you should see from sports, and MLB and the Home Run Derby have been doing a great job at it, and baseball fans are winning because of it. So, baseball fans for GOAT of the week. But enough talking positively. Let's now go to our dicks of the week. And Micah, kick us off.
My dick of the week is the Boston Celtics. There's a chance that they're making some good moves. I feel like the Brian Windhorse meme, the fingers up in the air. I just have no idea what they're doing. I think trading away Marcus Smart was bad. A huge loss on their defense. Just today, they traded Grant Williams for future picks. You're one of the best teams in the league, or at least before all these picks were made.
Yeah.
And now it feels like you're making all these moves, gaining a bunch of picks, and like just taking a step backwards. I feel like they didn't need to do anything. If anything, like sign one more piece, and
Right.
you're in the running to be a favorite. It feels like with some of these picks that they're getting, it feels like they're trying to make a trade for like a Damian Lillard or another star. But if they don't get one, then they're just taking steps back. And now is not the time to do that. So maybe they're working on something huge. Maybe I'll look like an idiot in a week or two. But I have no idea what they're doing right now.
Yeah, that's fair. Because, I mean, they definitely had a good chance to just make it back to the finals if they did nothing. Literally nothing.
Yeah.
And they're out here, like, trading for future assets. I don't get it.
Doesn't make sense.
Which takes me to my dick of the week, which is Lonzo Ball. He is injured right now, and it also sounds like he will remain injured for the foreseeable future. Word just broke that they're actually seeking a injured player exception for him in order to get back some of his salary for this year. And if the league approves it, it doesn't matter how healthy Lonzo Ball actually is during the season. He's not allowed to return. So it's sort of crushing news for him. Someone who's like fallen far from the graces of the second overall pick, and then been battling injuries for a couple of years since then, to have to face it all over again. So
Poor Lonzo. He doesn't really deserve this. Such a great distributor too. Like, and he was honestly a pretty humble and nice guy in the league. So sucks to see it go this way for him.
And the Bulls were doing pretty good after they made all those trades. And like Lonzo was a huge piece of that. And as soon as he got injured.
Yeah, you take a look at the Bulls team last year, and what they needed on that team was exactly what Lonzo Ball is.
Yeah.
So it sucks for the Bulls and Lonzo. To my dick of the week, oh boy, Mike is looking forward to this one too because I'm sure he's going to hop on this hate train here. Jody motherfucking Allen. God.
who is that, Evan?
Oh, she is the owner of the Blazers. For anybody that knows the Blazers or doesn't know the Blazers ownership situation, Paul Allen, who is one of the three founders of Microsoft, used to own the team. He also owned the Seahawks. He unfortunately passed away several years ago due to cancer. And essentially his sister Jody inherited both the Blazers and the Seahawks. She knows absolutely nothing about basketball. Most of the time when they ask her questions about the Blazers, she seems to have no interest in basketball or the team actually being competitive. She is one of two major factors for why the Blazers have ended up in the position they're in. The other one is Neil O'Shea, but as he hasn't been the GM of the Blazers for a year and a half now, it was kind of hard to justify putting him on Dick of the Week, but we'll throw him in there as well too because he screwed the team over very horribly.
Oh, yeah.
As much as I have given Joe Cronin crap, it's really not fair to put any of this on him because he's been put in a horrible situation for a general manager. Phil Knight came out last year and offered Jody Allen well above market value to purchase the Blazers, and she turned it down. And at the time, I think about 50% of Blazers Nation was pissed off. And at this point, I'm pretty sure 100% of Blazers fans are upset that she is still the owner of the team. She sucks. And I think if it weren't for her and Neil O'Shea, this entire situation could have been avoided. I think the Blazers would have been able to give Dame more chances if they just had somebody competent running the team. But unfortunately, that isn't how things are. And with her still owning the team, it's kind of scary as a Blazers fan because we're now in a rebuild and we're all hoping and praying that she doesn't fuck things up for this now too.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with all of that. Like, it's just tough watching this front office for the last 6 or 7 years when you have one of the best point guards in the league, like, saying so much, like how much he wants to stay with the Blazers, wants to win with the Blazers, and they just never made a move. Just so many off seasons and trade deadlines of sitting around being like, maybe we'll do something this year, and we never do. And I mean, like, you look back at the last, 5 championships, and every team pretty much a little bit before winning made one final move that put him over the edge. I think Denver signing Aaron Gordon, Golden State getting Wiggins, Bucks getting Drew Holiday, Lakers getting AD, Toronto getting Kawhi. Like, you got to do something to win, and Blazers never did. And so now we don't have Dame.
Yeah, and we're once again positioned to roll with the exact same backcourt situation that we've been running for the past decade, with now Scoot and Anthony next to each other. Because I'm guessing if we're trading Dame, there's no way they trade Ant, as much as I would like them to. So we're just going to continue to run with the small guard lineup. And if it wasn't effective with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, unless Scoot is way better than anybody really projects him to be, I don't think Scoot Henderson and Anthony Simons are somehow going to be a better setup than Dame and CJ together.
Right.
But yeah, Jody Allen, Dick of the Week, will continue to be a perpetual Dick of the Week until she sells the damn team.
Yeah.
So I'll restrain myself from putting her in there constantly going forward. Keep in vein with the NBA, we will now hop over to off-season activity, trades, free agency, extensions, all that. We'll start with a couple of trades here, neither of which are necessarily massive. Both, I think, are more just kind of interesting situations that are fun to talk through. First one being Chris Paul traded to the Warriors from the Wizards, and then, of course, Jordan Poole getting sent to the Wizards also. There was other stuff happening there, but those are the two main pieces. So Micah, Jonathan, what do you think? How do you think the Warriors are going to look next season now with Chris Paul on the team instead of Jordan Poole?
I mean, I think that Jordan Poole was not a great fit for this roster. He was, like, in the best case scenario, he was, like, filling the exact same role as Stephen Clay. And he also proved a little bit in the playoffs that he's not fully ready to step into that role either, at least not as the third player in that role. So I think moving on from him was the right idea for the Warriors. I'm not certain if Chris Paul was what they needed, because, obviously he'll be coming off the bench and leading that unit, which I do think that he'll be really good at and really good for them. But I feel like they probably could have gotten, a decent power forward or center to pair alongside this lineup.
You don't think Chris Paul's going to start over Andrew Wiggins?
But they are doubling down on small ball right now, which is an interesting choice considering the teams that are currently at the top of the West that they'll have to overcome. It's pretty difficult for small ball to be able to handle Kevin Durant or Nikola Jokic, and those are the teams that they got to go through to get there. So either they need to start thinking about their own future, or they need to think better about their present.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it was smart to get off of Jordan Poole. I think he's a good player. I'm really excited because I have him on my fantasy team. He's going to get so many more points in Washington. But obviously, I don't think he was a great fit in the locker room. Him and Draymond obviously didn't like each other very much. There were, near the end of the season, there were some shots that Jordan Poole was taking end of game, and you could see Steph was pissed, Draymond was pissed, the shots he was taking. Yeah. So I think it was right to move on from him. I think he's a good player. I feel like they could have gotten more or someone better than Chris Paul. Obviously Chris Paul is a Hall of Famer, great player, but always injured. It's we'll see if he plays in the playoffs. It's rare he does anymore. So I don't know if that's what Golden State needed, but I think it was right to move on from Poole.
Yeah. Washington definitely came out on top though in this, which kind of crazy that they did, but they absolutely win here. They get to pair Poole. I mean, now kind of becomes the guy in Washington, which, like Micah said, congrats to him and all the fantasy owners of Jordan Poole. Chris Paul and Golden State. I mean, you said that Jordan Poole wasn't a good fit. Chris Paul might be an even more confusing fit because, I mean, Chris Paul's best when he's on the floor. I mean, distributing the ball, commanding the floor, and with a second unit, sure, he'll be able to do that, but you're then distributing the ball and being the general to a bunch of guys who aren't great at scoring. So it's confusing fit. I mean, it should be fine for Golden State. It's not going to make them worse, but it's just, like you said, it's just they could have traded Jordan Poole elsewhere and gotten something else, a package that made more sense for them than this.
I mean, when it comes to their playoff rotation, I think it makes a little bit more sense, though, because he'll probably, when you get to playoffs, your rotation shrinks to 7 or 8 guys, meaning that usually you'll have at least 2 or 3 starters on the full floor at all times. So when Chris Paul is taking over for Steph and distributing to the starters, then that makes a little bit more sense to me. But it is going to be... I still think there were better moves out there for them, but I'm not too upset with what Chris Paul can do for them.
Question will just be, will he actually be playing when playoffs come? So,
yeah.
Moving on to the other trade, though, that we wanted to talk about. This one is essentially, it's a nothing trade in the NBA. It doesn't really matter. Just the outcome of it is a little funny. It is sign and trade between the Cavaliers, the Heat, and the Spurs, where the Cavs received Max Strus. Good for the Cavs. That actually kind of makes sense for them. The Heat received the second-round pick. What doesn't make sense, though, is that the Heat could have just received a second-round pick for Max Strus straight up, but instead the Spurs got involved, and the Spurs got Cedi Osman, Lamar Stevens, and a second-round pick. It's silent because we're all confused. Like how the Spurs got involved in this and how it's not like they came away with a haul, but they came away with more than the Heat did, and the Heat gave up the best asset of the entire trade.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love this for the Cavs. I think Max Strus is going to fit in perfectly. I think it's what they were missing. But I don't know what the Heat were doing. I don't know how the Spurs got involved. But good for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Confusing times in the NBA. Nothing makes sense. That's all we had to say on that one. It was just confusing. Now over to new signings in the NBA. These are guys, as the title of the segment indicates, it's players that sign with a new team.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, I'm drunk. First one we'll start with, which Micah alluded to earlier, is Dillon Brooks to the Rockets on a 4-year, $80 million deal. Easy math there. Average annual value of $20 million. Quite a bit more money than I think anybody anticipated him getting. But Micah, Jonathan, how do you guys feel about it?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think that it's probably the Rockets' better signing of the 2 that we're about to discuss. He's a value add for a relatively affordable price for a team that wasn't struggling for cap space. I mean, you look at the future of this team and how the back end of this contract might affect their team building strategies going into the future, but also we expect the cap to continue to increase and probably won't hurt them too much on the back end either. So I think it's a good move.
Yeah, this will work for the Rockets. They get that dog on their team who can coach up all the rest of the guys that have had to be tough. I still find it funny that the Memphis Grizzlies decided to take the moral high ground with Dillon Brooks and not re-sign him because he's just such a terrible guy, and then have Ja Morant as their main star of their team. So,
yeah,
that's kind of humorous.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I also think it's just funny that I don't think anyone would have guessed he would have made $80 million, especially after all of the jokes that he was going to play in China after this season. Yeah. So, I mean, good for him.
Yeah, way to secure the bag. Came out of nowhere. But on to the second signing the Rockets made, which Jonathan was talking about, Fred VanVleet for 3 years, $130 million, average annual value of $43.3 million a year, which I think we can all agree is a little high for Fred VanVleet.
Yeah.
Jonathan clearly has strong feelings on this, so go ahead, Jonathan.
I mean, it's just too much money. I mean, when Van Vliet first declined his player option, I assumed that the goal was to sign a long-term deal that would guarantee him like value throughout the like full length of his contract, especially as he's like entering his age 30 season. And I never expected that he would have beaten like his player option based on like annual value, and he did. 43 is a hell of a lot for him, and yeah, the Rockets can afford it for now, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it was the best move anyway.
Yeah, and for context, they're paying him $43.3 million a year. This past season, he had 19.3 points, shot 39.3 from the field, 34% from the three, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, and 1.8 steals per game. So has a pretty holistic game overall, but definitely not any statistics that like blow you away from a point guard. So
Yeah. I will say, like, I feel like Houston's at the point where they've tanked for 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
Now, I guess that's when they traded Harden. They got a lot of young players. At some point, you got to just start paying money and start to get good and start growing. So, yeah, I think they paid him too much. But as far as the signing goes, like, I think it'll be a good fit.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, there's some element of one, mentorship that you want to bring in for these younger players as they build, and another of like some of these contracts for the rookies are going to start to expire soon, and they're going to want to be able to retain them. So
Fair point.
from that perspective, it probably does make a little bit of sense, but from most others, I don't love it.
Yeah.
shifting now over though to one of the reigning champs here, Jonathan's boy Bruce Brown, signing with the Pacers for 2 year, $45 million, average annual value of $22.5 million. Jonathan, how you feeling losing Bruce Brown, and do you feel or do you wish the Nuggets could have paid more or matched this to entice him to come back?
Really happy for him. Really sad for us. He was a good piece for our rotation, one that will not be easy to replace. I think that we have a couple of people in the pipeline that can fill parts of Bruce Brown's role. Maybe combined, we sort of replace what he was to us, but it is certainly a loss for us. And do I wish we could pay him? Yes, but at this point, with like all of the new restrictions of the new CBA, with the second apron introduction, it would have been a huge sacrifice to maintain him, especially even towards Bruce Brown himself. It would have been a sacrifice because we were not allowed to sign him to anything other than vet minimum for this season because we didn't have bird rights. So as soon as we signed him, we would have been able to extend him with bird rights. But the initial signing would not have been worth anything. Like, our handshake promise to him at the parade was, hey, if you like play with us for way too little money, then we will pay you 2 years, $45 million in an extension. And it's like, well, he got that without waiting. So good for him. A little bit of the Jokic effect. I'm not sure he's necessarily a $22.5 million a year player. But I think that he's pretty close to it. Win for the Pacers, win for Bruce.
Like it. Shifting now over to contract extensions, and some of these will be very just quick of us saying, yeah, we like it or we don't. But we'll go through it anyway. First one, LaMelo Ball extension with the Hornets, 5 year, $260 million, average annual value of $52 million. Boy, securing the frickin' bag. What do you guys think of it? Do you think he has deserved to be paid $52 million a year?
It's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I mean, he has shown a lot of star potential, but it's also the star potential in the format of almost like a Kyrie Irving, where I'm not certain that he elevates his team enough to deserve the contract, but he'll put up statistics that make it like almost inarguable. So I think that from a business standpoint, it was a good signing, and from a team building standpoint, they're going to have to be careful not to let this cripple them.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if he deserves it. I don't think the Hornets were wrong to give it.
Right.
I like LaMelo. I hope he owns up to this. Because he does, like, you can watch him play, and he plays real well sometimes.
Yeah.
Also, he's playing for Charlotte, so
Yeah.
it's hard to really tell how much value
For sure.
he brings.
Absolutely. Now over to another guy, though, who got the exact same contract, Anthony Edwards with the T-Wolves again, 5-year, $260 million, $52 million annually. I think he has earned that, quote-unquote, a little bit more than LaMelo has. I think Anthony Edwards has shown that he's a true superstar in the making in Minnesota. But what do you guys think?
I agree. I like this contract more for Edwards
for
than
sure.
Ball. More than anything, I'm just curious as how this affects the rest of the T-Wolves organization. Because obviously, you're not going to keep him and Gobert and Cat and pay all of them that much money.
They're able to. I just don't know if they should or think they should.
Especially after last season. I don't
Yeah.
think they should. So I think there will be changes coming. But I think out of everyone on that team, obviously Edwards is the one that you want to pay money
Yeah.
to keep.
God, they better keep Cat, though, because apparently Cat's going to wind up being the greatest basketball player of all time. So the T-Wolves got to keep that in mind when they try to re-sign him.
I mean, that quote, that series of quotes was amazing. We might break it down at some point because just next level narcissism, and I don't know. It was fun.
Yeah.
I'm not married because I'm saving that finger for a championship ring.
Yeah.
Now over to Domantas Sabonis, signing an extension with the Kings, 5-year, $217 million, average annual value of 43.4. Off the top, I feel like that's very good value for the Kings. I like this one a lot. What do you guys think?
I agree. Especially after Kings getting to the playoffs for the first time in like 16 years. I feel like there's a bit of, all right, let's celebrate. You guys got us here to like the 3rd seed too.
Yeah.
They had a good team, so I was like, I like it. Pay your guys that actually brought some form of joy to Sacramento for the first time in a decade and a half.
I mean, you remember mid-season when like some people were pinning him as like an MVP candidate too? I mean, I think that was ridiculous even at the time.
Yeah.
But also, he is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's a good contract, I think.
Not just anybody can win the NBA Skills Challenge. But he's also got, I think I would have given him $40 million up front just for how much he was able to piss off Draymond Green. Like, that shit was comedy and made that series so much fun. Adam Silver should have just cut him a check right there, honestly. Like, thank you for boosting our ratings. On to the next one, Tyrese Halliburton extension with the Pacers, 5-year, $200 million, average annual value of $40 million a year. This one seems a little expensive, but also Halliburton's young, so kind of similar to LaMelo. It could just be that you're paying for the hope that he turns into what you think he can become.
Yeah.
Yeah, not much else to say there. And then the last extension, this one's a fun one. Kristaps Porzingis extension with the Celtics after he hasn't played a single minute for the Celtics yet, but they decided to give him a 2-year, $60 million contract. Easy math, $30 million a year. Micah, what do you think of this one?
Again, I don't know what Boston is doing. Like, this doesn't make sense to me. Like, if he signed this contract right after like leaving New York, I'd have been like, yeah. Sounds about right. Great deal. But his time in Washington and his time in Dallas was very underwhelming.
Yeah.
I don't know what he really brings to this Celtics team.
That they don't already have either.
Right.
Because it's like, in an ideal situation, he's sort of filling the backup Jason Tatum role. And it's like, do you really want to pay $30 million a year for your backup to your star, who's never going to be anything but a shadow of him?
Yeah.
Fucking idiots. And they already had Peyton Pritchard.
Yeah. I do.
Yeah, it just seems like a lot of money for, like, in my mind, I feel like this was a prove-it year for Kristaps Porzingis. Like, this is the year that the Celtics should have been going, like,
No, go ahead.
we're not going to give you a contract until we actually see what you can do, because so far what you can do is not worth shit, I don't even know if I'd give him $15 million a year. Like,
Yeah.
he just hasn't been fantastic over the past several seasons. So this definitely plays into Micah's picking them as the dick of the week.
Yeah, I think so.
It also feels weird to me because 2 years ago, when Ime Udoka was the coach and was playing Robert Williams a lot of minutes, and he was a great backup center.
Mm-hmm.
And then their new coach, I forget his name, but just like stopped playing him, and now are signing someone, giving $60 million to someone to also take his place.
Yeah.
I just don't understand what they're doing with Robert Williams.
Yeah. All right, and then our final extension one that Jonathan just showed me on his phone, so we'll throw it in here. Desmond Bane's extension with the Grizzlies, 5-year, $207 million. I haven't done the math on average annual value yet, but it's in the 40s. Yeah. So, Jonathan, since you showed it to us, what do you think?
I mean, I was surprised to see this extension. Almost surprised to see it happen at all. I almost felt like he would go to RFA because, to me, I think that a lot of people undervalue Desmond Bane. And this is not a contract which undervalues Desmond Bane. So I feel like they could have definitely taken him to restricted free agency and gotten a better deal for him. But they clearly saw something, saw more than what I was seeing, and decided to lock him down as soon as they could. If they're right, then it'll turn out to be really good in their favor. But I think that he has a lot left to prove, so it's a big risk to do this at least.
It could stem from concerns with John Morant, honestly. I mean, it could just be that they're trying to lock up guys that they know are fine off the court and are consistent and could turn into stars, because who knows what's going to happen with Ja. Because, I mean, I think Ja's at the point where if he has one more issue off the court, career's over. Like, the Grizzlies will get rid of him. So, because they're not going to want to deal with it.
Yeah. But also on top of that, like, Desmond Bane played really well in all of the games that John Morant was out. Like, he stepped up a lot. So when you're already going into a season where you're not going to have John Morant for a while, like, you want Desmond Bane. Again, probably could have gone to restricted free agency, probably could have been paid less, but I understand Memphis wanting to keep him and lock him up.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right, over to re-signs now. We'll start out here with some Blazer love. Jeremy Grant re-signing with the Blazers for 5 years, $160 million, average annual value of $32 million. Micah, how are we feeling?
I feel fine.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like a lot of people think this is a terrible deal, and I get why, because we signed it to keep Dame, and then Dame left 14 hours later. But also, like, we have the money now. I like Jeremy Grant. He's a good player. Like, I think he'll be a good role model for all of our young guys, whoever they turn out to be. We got the money to pay him. So
you don't yet, though, especially if he's going to the Heat, because the Heat are required to send back as much money as they receive.
Yeah.
So you'll need to bring in a third team. You'll need to get rid of Nurkic. You'll need to do something else.
But the contracts we'll be getting back aren't Dame's, where he'll be locked in for $50 million a year for the next 4 seasons. We'll be getting back contracts that are going to be 1-year expiries and contracts we can easily get rid of. So it makes it better. Ultimately, I feel like this contract is actually better once Dame is gone. Like, like Mike said, it opens up more money. It honestly puts the Blazers in a good position for a rebuild. He becomes the veteran presence on the team. He's wanted to be the guy on the team for a while, so here's his freaking chance. So I honestly think it's fine. I don't get all, like you said, Micah, I don't really understand all the people that are freaking out over this and saying it's a horrible deal for the Blazers. They probably overpaid him a little bit, but at the end of the day, Dylan Brooks got $80 million, so I think we're doing all right.
Yeah.
All right, on to another hot one. Kyrie Irving back to the Dallas Mavericks for God knows why. 3 years, $126 million, average annual value of $42 million. Jonathan, Micah, how do we think this is going to turn out for the Mavericks?
Man, it's so sad to me to watch this organization just make so many mistakes. And, like, part of me is okay with it, being a Nuggets fan and, like, having been a little bit afraid of, like, what the Mavs could become. But at the same time, it's like, it's just feels like the epitome of bad team building. Like when the news broke that they were not interested in like helping out other teams by signing and trading Kyrie, I assumed that meant that no one else would be interested, so why would they do it anyway? But no, it meant that they were fully committed to paying Kyrie way too much money to be like, he can't play off ball. Luka can't play off ball. It's just they proved it doesn't work. Like, both of them put up decent individual statistics, and their assist numbers to people who weren't each other were okay, but it's just not good team chemistry in my mind. And I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's also funny that this completely by itself of Kyrie Irving re-signing is incredible for the Mavericks because of how bad the trade to get him was.
Yeah.
Like, if they sent everything they sent to get him just for him to walk, that would have just been absolutely crippling. It's already a bad deal. This is not good for Dallas. But, man, it would have been really funny if Kyrie just left. Went anywhere else.
To the Suns.
Yep.
Yeah.
Luka would be gone tomorrow.
I mean, gosh, if I'm Luka, I'm still considering asking out because clearly this Mavs front office just doesn't know what the heck they're doing. They don't know what's going on. I'm still baffled at the fact that they fired their past coach, Rick Carlisle or something like that. Like, he was a fantastic coach, and they got rid of him because the front office gave him Luka, nothing else. And we're like, why didn't we make the playoffs? So, yeah, Dallas is kind of a dumpster fire right now. I don't think it'll happen soon, but at some point here, I would not be surprised if Luka winds up moving on from Dallas, which is a bummer. But
Yeah.
we shall see. Over now to Chris Middleton re-signing with the Bucks, $102 million, average annual value of $34 million a year for a 3-year contract. Micah, how are we feeling about this value for the Bucks?
Yeah, good for the Bucks. I think same with the Brook Lopez re-signing.
Yep.
Like, I think these were contracts he had to sign. Like, I mean, you won the championship a few years ago with this squad. Mm-hmm. Got to keep them together. I mean, hopefully this season Chris Middleton will be healthy the whole time. Same with Brook. So I think it's good for them. I think Milwaukee's still in a state to win now. So
Yeah, agreed. It almost feels like a discount.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's a great signing for them. Player that fits well with their organization and can continue to bring them success.
Love it. On to Kyle Kuzma re-signing with the Wizards. This one's no one really cares. We'll talk about it. Kyle Kuzma, 4 years, $102 million, getting paid $25.5 million a year. Seems a little expensive for Kyle Kuzma to me, but what do you guys think?
I don't know. That contract seems fine to me. I think Kyle Kuzma's pretty good. Like he's gonna be pretty much the guy in Washington now, and so to have your best player only be getting paid $25 a year, like,
Yeah, that's true.
that's not bad.
Yeah. I mean, the Wizards as a whole are underwhelming, but it's not a horrible contract.
I just like to hate on Kyle Kuzma. I have no justification for why I like to hate on Kyle Kuzma, but it's fun to hate him. Going down to D'Angelo Russell, re-signing with the Lakers for 2 years, $37 million at $18.5 million a year. I feel like this is a pretty good re-signing for the Lakers. Jonathan, how do you feel?
I don't know. It's a weird one to me. I mean, it's not that weird. I'm not surprised by anything that happened with this contract. It's just I still don't really know how to judge D'Angelo Russell with this team, where he sort of floundered in the playoffs this year, was like not given any chance to sort of play his game or to just heat up within the postseason, and then at random moments being asked to make shots. And I don't think that's his ideal fit, but also it's like not a bad deal for him. So I don't know. I'm a little torn here.
Yeah, it feels like the right amount of money to pay D'Lo. I'm surprised the Lakers paid it though. Mm-hmm. Like, he didn't really play that well when he was a Laker. I was surprised they kept him.
I'm surprised he wanted back.
Yeah. But Yeah, 18.5 feels about right.
Yeah.
Probably just came down to the fact that in terms of who is available on the market and what the Lakers need, D'Lo is essentially the kind of player that they do need, and there just wasn't many guys available to play like D'Lo. So
Yeah,
probably just kind of a forced affair.
Better for their regular season than their postseason, I think.
Yeah, definitely. On to the last re-signing we have here, Russell Westbrook back to the Clippers, 2 years, $8 million average annual value of 4 years. How the mighty have fallen for Russell Westbrook.
That is an egregious overpay. I don't know how the Clippers organization will recover from this one. Oh my.
You know how? Developers.
Yeah, I mean, good for the Clippers, I think. It's another one of those situations where it's like, I'm not sure if there's a lot of rosters, especially rosters that think that they're competing, that strongly benefit from Russell Westbrook being on their team. But at the same time, $4 million a year for a guy who is an MVP, who like has an incredible career, who is probably a first ballot Hall of Famer, is never a bad thing. At the least, he's going to be like a good mentor, and he also should contribute.
Yeah, I mean, I think he played pretty well with the Clippers at the end of last season. I think he fit in really well with what they were doing, a whole lot better than with the Lakers. So,
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think it's great for the Clippers to get him back again, super cheap. It's not like you're really missing out on any opportunities having him, and yeah, I hope he has a good end to his career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. This definitely does seem like the first time that he's, since leaving the Thunder, this is the first time he's actually bought into the I am no longer the guy mentality, which was the issue with the Lakers, was that he wanted to still be one of the main guys, and he's just not that anymore, unfortunately. I mean, he's fully dependent on athleticism, and he's, 34 now, I think, and it's hit 34, 33, 34, somewhere in there. And that athleticism, that bounce starts to leave you a little bit. So, but like you said, as much as he's a player I love to hate, I do hope he has a good end to his career here. I hope that he is able to get a ring here at some point, because he absolutely deserves it. He plays his ass off, even if he steals rebounds from other people.
If he wants a ring, he needs to come to Denver, though. I don't want anyone else to get it.
You can't have all the rings, Jonathan. That's not how this works. Jokic isn't going to play forever. All right, but now we'll move on to kind of rumors / future trades here. Really two situations we wanted to talk about. We were going to talk about Lonzo Ball, but already got that covered here at the top of the show. So we'll move on, of course, to the elephant in the room. Damian Lillard asking out of Portland finally, after essentially reports that... essentially reports that in 2021 he strongly considered it and then wanted to give Billups a chance, and then a year later he strongly considered it but wanted to give more people a chance, and then now he's
those were mistakes
wanting out. And I don't think we'll ever know, but I am curious as to what exactly was the straw to break the camel's back. Was it not re-signing Draymond? Was it not even sending an offer to him? Was it taking Scoot instead of trading the pick? Again, we'll probably never know, but it is kind of interesting that something in there clearly was, or pissed Dame off. But Micah, how are you feeling? And
Sad.
Okay, beyond sad, how are we feeling overall about the Blazers situation? Where do you think Dame will go? Well, where do you think Dame will go? Where do you want him to go?
I want him to go to Miami. I think he can easily win a ring there. I think he'd be happy there. Getting to play with Jimmy and Bam, I think, would be a phenomenal fit. Also, I don't really want that for the Blazers. I'm not thrilled about Tyler Hero and not a lot of picks. I think if he goes to Miami, Portland would need for it to be a 3-team trade.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, honestly, for a lot of teams that he gets traded to, I feel like it kind of needs to be a 3-team trade.
right
Which makes it hard to know what exactly is going to happen. But I'd be really happy if he was in Miami. As a Dame fan,
Yeah.
I'd be very happy with that.
Yeah, I've seen lots of things of people saying that if he goes to Miami, it'd be good to do a 3-team trade with Brooklyn, and like we get Cam Thomas from Brooklyn and some extra picks. The issue is though for Brooklyn is that they're rebuilding and they want to keep their youth. So there's really, I mean, if they don't get Dame, there's literally no incentive for Brooklyn to hop in on this, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And also, I think the other thing is that it seems like more than likely we'll wind up packaging Nurkic along with Dame in any trade, which will be good for the Blazers. They'll get some more value back.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tough to see many teams out there that by themselves outside of Boston. So who knows? Maybe Boston's end game here is to get Dame and Nurk. Outside of Boston, I don't really think there's any team that single-handedly could actually pull this off. Because like Philadelphia has the assets, but we don't want James Harden. That literally is backwards from what the Blazers are trying to accomplish now. So
Oklahoma City could, but
they won't.
Yeah, there's
Dame
no
will shut
point
it
for them
down.
to. And I don't see why they would want it.
Yeah.
Really.
I've seen things about the Jazz. Again, the Jazz have the assets. The Jazz shouldn't want it.
Right.
The Dame 100% wouldn't want it.
I've seen the same for San Antonio, and that doesn't make sense at all either.
Yeah.
I feel like Brooklyn might have enough. Like if they gave Sharp and Thomas and Simmons and
Picks.
a lot of
3
picks.
firsts.
Yeah.
And
Like, I
I
can
mean,
see that being enough.
And they have enough assets there that if they acquire Dame, within a year or two, I mean, who knows, they might be competitive, but it definitely wouldn't be the Heat situation where if you send Dame to Miami, Miami might become top 2 favorite in the East as soon as they acquire Dame, probably alongside Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So it's tough. And Joe Cronin has come out and Woj has come out and said that the Blazers are prioritizing getting a good deal, which, again, the tough part is that as a Blazers fan, I'm happy with that, and that's what I want. But at the same time, I kind of want Dame to go to a situation where he's happy. So
Yeah.
it's rough.
Do you think his contract drives down his value at all? He's getting paid $65 million when
Yeah,
he's
he is.
36 years old.
Hell yeah, he is.
Like,
I mean, I think it probably does a little bit, but at the same time, I think with the way it's kind of like similar to Steph Curry, and I'm not saying Damian Lillard is Steph Curry. I get that there's a difference there, but in the sense where they like the way they play has a good chance of not being impacted a ton by age. Like they're based so much around shooting, and yes, age can affect shooting, but like the way that Dame and Steph do it, I think they should be okay. And Dame, he's had injuries the last couple of seasons, but realistically, the reason he's missed so many games is because the Blazers have just shut him down.
Yeah.
So, like, ultimately, he's 32 right now. Yes, he's played a long time, but he hasn't really had any huge injury issues. I mean, he had his abdominal thing, but
got surgery. That's
he got surgery.
fixed and
Yeah,
done.
he's good to go now. Last season, he played fantastic, so he doesn't seem to be slowing down at all. And in this day and age of the NBA, I don't really think many teams, especially in win-now mode, are looking 3 to 4 years out into the future at what that contract is going to mean for them. I think they're looking at right here, right now. So,
Like, I think obviously $65 million, whole lot of money. At some point, that is a factor that does drive it down a little bit, but I don't think enough that any team that wants to win is going to be like, and like actually not make a deal.
oh yeah, I don't think it will take away a deal. I just think that it might be the chip that Miami uses to say, hey, Hero in 2 firsts is fair because look at what it does to our future.
Yeah, but Blazers just isn't going to do it. Like,
especially not with Tyler Hero. All right, we'll stop having Micah and I be depressed. We'll instead move on to James Harden, who is apparently seeking a sign-and trade now from the 76ers because James Harden is not content anywhere ever and just wants to go elsewhere and play with a different superstar until I guess he wins a ring, which is never going to happen because he sucks. But where do we think James Harden will wind up? Do you think the 76ers will be able to convince him to come back and reteam with Joel Embiid, or do we see him going out and joining that frickin' Phoenix Suns squad, or what's going to happen?
I want to see him go back to Houston.
I mean, that's been rumored.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he wants it. I don't see why Houston would want it at all. I have no idea. Like, I think it's going to have to be a sign and trade for him to go anywhere because he's on the last year of his deal, and I don't think any team is going to give assets to someone who keeps asking out.
Yeah.
Like, no team should have faith that if they get him, he's going to stick around.
Right.
Well, and the reason they get him too is for a championship push, and he sucks in the play. Like, he's literally never had a good playoffs. Like,
Hey, that Rockets team only missed 29 straight from deep. Like, it's not that bad.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the Clippers have been rumored a lot. I think he fits in well. I don't see what they would give because they wouldn't give Paul George.
no.
And so then you're looking at like Terrence Mann, and then you have both Mann and Maxey, and I don't see why you would want both of those.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guess you could give Norman Powell and Rocco.
They have Zubats.
Yeah, Zubats.
There's even been rumors of the Clippers blowing it up in the future, too.
Yeah,
so.
they've been
Yeah.
linked to maybe getting rid of PG. So
Yeah. I haven't heard anything about this team, but I feel like he would fit in great, and I think they could make a trade for him. I could see the Knicks going after him.
yeah,
Like Jalen Brunson, him, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a solid team that could actually like be really good.
yeah, and they could offer up RJ Barrett.
Yeah,
and
they would
yeah.
for sure Barrett probably quickly. I don't know
Picks, yeah.
what picks they have, but I think that could work. I could also see Philly trying to get Dame and hope that's enough to keep him,
Yeah,
but I don't see how that would really work. Yeah.
yeah.
Also, I don't know what Harden wants.
Right.
Like, he was the guy, and then he was like, I don't want to do that. I want to get a championship. So they paired him with two of the best players in Brooklyn. And then, I mean, Brooklyn was a whole shit show in itself. I don't really blame Harden for
But-
that one. But then, like, you're great in Philly. He had a good season last year. Was the assist leader. Like, I don't see why he even wants out. It doesn't make sense.
Well, Embiid and him just got no help in that Game 7, you know? Like, they did their part, making 6 combined field goals. And, man, I don't know.
Shifting now over away from the NBA to the NFL, we have our NFC East division predictions, and if you hear Micah chuckling in the background, it's because Micah does not know the NFL very well. Last week when we did the AFC East, he at least had a dog in the fight because he's a Dolphins fan. This is a complete shit show for Micah. He doesn't know what's going on, but he is going to give you his predictions. That's for damn sure. So we're going to start with Micah. Who is your NFC East division winner, and what is their record?
Going 16-1. The Philadelphia Eagles.
Just be happy he picked a team that makes sense.
Yeah, I could have said the Commanders, so we're not doing too bad. Again, I don't know. They went to the Super Bowl last year. Yeah.
Yeah,
What else do you need?
exactly.
I think the only game I had them losing was against Kansas City. You know, makes sense. Other Super Bowl team. So, yeah,
All right.
guaranteed.
Enough said. Over to Jonathan. Who's your division winner?
Enough said. Eagles. I mean, genuinely, I think they're the best team in this league, top to bottom. 14-3 is what I have them at. A couple of losses to really strong opponents, and like cleaning it up against a couple of other really strong opponents because their defense is among the best in the league. They have a lot of weapons on offense and a great young quarterback to lead them. Complete special teams, decent coaching. Had a lot of turnover from their coordinators and position coaches this year, mainly because of how successful they are. And so I see, even despite the little bit of turnover in the coaching, they're primed to do it again. So.
Yeah, I also have the Eagles. Eagles are one of the best teams in the NFL. Should continue to be this next season. I have them going 12-5. Losing to the Chiefs because the Chiefs are very good. Couple of times where they play down to teams just because even the best teams in the NFL have that happen every once in a while. But yeah, I see them easily taking the division. All right, Micah, who is your second place team in the NFC East?
I got the Cowboys going 9-8. Yeah.
His order at least makes sense so far.
They're the same order. Well, I mean, we'll hold off on that. Again, I don't even know who the Cowboys quarterback is. Is it Dak?
Dak Prescott.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, that's my pick.
Love it.
Yeah, for me, I mean, is it? You said Dak Prescott?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dak.
yeah. That's the guy.
Yeah. No, the Cowboys are, again, a really complete team. Just an incredible defense. A couple of, nice stars coming up with Micah Parsons sort of trying to lead that unit as just a fun archetype of, Mike back. So a little bit excited to see what their defense can do this year. And their offense is also fairly well equipped with decent weapons and a quarterback who I believe is often overrated, but is still very capable of holding his own. So I probably expected them to get 11-6 record, but they wound up doing a little bit better when I went game by game. But just most likely the second best team in this division.
I also have the Cowboys in second place in the division. I have them going 10-7 now. Jonathan makes a lot of good points. They are a very complete team. They have a lot of good up-and-comers, good defense. However, their team name is the Dallas Cowboys, and they are perpetually mediocre. So I'm banking on that trend.
America's team.
Yeah, I'm banking on that trend continuing like it's continued for the past 2-3 decades. So I have them going 10-7. Wild card team, as per usual. We'll probably lose in the first round because that's how the Cowboys do it. All right, Micah, who's your third place team?
Third place team, third and fourth seed both have the same record, and I have them splitting the series. So I think the Giants and the Commanders are both going to go 4-13. My analysis is that they are bad.
Thanks, Micah.
Back over to you, John.
I have the Commanders as my third place team, and I do not have them being bad. A little unexpected for a lot of people, but I think that their defense is also among the top in the league. A very common thing for this division as you're sort of gathering. But a couple of really strong pieces on defense, a couple of really strong offensive weapons in Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, surrounding a quarterback who I believe will have a strong breakout year. Not strong enough to make them a top-end team, but 9-8 in the NFC for me is good enough to get to the playoffs. So actually 3 teams in the playoffs from this division, and the Commanders are, I think, primed to surprise a lot of people.
My third place team, I actually have the Giants. I also have them going 9-8. Essentially kind of the same reasons that Jonathan likes the Commanders for, other than the breakout quarterback thing.
And other than the defense.
Giants defense is pretty solid. Not Commanders level, but
Yeah.
it's good. They drafted very well. I really like their draft. Saquon Barkley is a heck of a running back, and they're likely going to continue to run the offense through him. Got some good pieces now for Daniel Jones to throw to. If Daniel Jones can play like he did last year, Giants offense will be very, very solid. I think they're a pretty complete team. So 9-8 for the Giants. We already know who Micah's third/fourth place teams are. So Jonathan, back to you for your last place team.
Yeah, my final team in this division is the Giants. Largely a losing season and a terrible season due to the product of just being in a really competitive division in my mind. But also, I don't think they're there yet. They have easily the worst defense in this division. Still, probably just barely below average for the league, but not good enough to hold their own here. And then I think some pretty weak surrounding pieces on offense. Regardless of what you think of Daniel Jones, I don't think that this offense is going to be fully primed to break out this year. And I also don't really believe in Daniel Jones. So He's sort of a safe quarterback, but not anyone that can like earn you victories that you didn't otherwise deserve based on your roster. And I don't think this roster deserves a lot. So
Feel the exact same way about the Commanders. The Commanders going 6-11. I too like Sam Howell. I think he's going to be good in the NFL. I do think, however, there will be growing pains for him. I also just don't think Ron Rivera is the right fit there at coach for the Commanders. He said some weird things. I just don't love his schemes for that team. Yes, they have a very good defense. They have some good weapons. I just think it might take them another year or two to kind of put it all together into an actual effective season. So 6-11 for the Commanders.
you want to put a couple units on that, Evan?
What if who's going to get fourth?
Yeah, 2 units on which team finishes with a better record, Washington or New York.
Sure.
All right.
We shook hands for, well, no one could see us except for Micah. So Micah's our witness.
I didn't see it.
All right, but to finish things off, we of course have our 100 units, oddly enough, and 10,001 segments here. So Micah, how about you kick us off with your 100 units bet of the week?
100 units bet. I got Francis Tiafoe winning the Wimbledon. The Wimbledon. Yeah. He's my favorite men's tennis player right now. He's still really young. Hasn't won a major yet, but I think he's ranked 10th in men's in the world. So I think it's just a matter of time before he gets one. So odds are still pretty high on him. He's plus 7,000. But I like him. I feel good about it. I put 1 unit on it.
All right. I went with someone else to win the Wimbledon, but more specifically, without losing a single set. And that is obviously Djokovic. The only person that has any argument to place that specific bet on them, and it still is probably not good enough odds for it, but you got to support Serbia when you can. So plus 660 odds, quarter of a unit bet down there, and hopefully he secures his 5th in 5 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. For my 100 units bet, I'm going with the USA women's team to reach the World Cup final. I feel that's a pretty good bet, and apparently FanDuel does too, because them reaching the World Cup final is only at plus 125, which is honestly not great, but I'll still take it. Put a unit and a half down on that one.
Man, they really should have taken the incentives contract that we were talking about.
All right, my 10,000s unit. I'm going to go through this real quickly. These are all money line on today's slate of MLB games. That's July 5th.
Let's find out if it's already busted.
It has. I got Astros, Tigers, Phillies, Marlins, Reds, Orioles, Braves, Red Sox, Twins, Brewers, Blue Jays, Padres, Mariners, Mets, and the Dodgers at plus 540,000. But of course the Tigers lost it to me. They're minus 225, lost 12-3.
What the hell?
Everything else is actually looking really good though.
It is,
So
yeah.
Kind of pissed me off.
Yeah, my 10,001 is Zach Johnson, this beautiful, beautiful man, to win the John Deere Classic. I don't know much about the John Deere Classic golf or Zach Johnson, other than he is the U.S. captain for the Ryder Cup this year, which that fact alone feels like 17,000 is a little bit cheap for a tournament that features no names that I recognized.
You got Shez Reavie.
Shez Reavie. But I couldn't get 10,000 on him, so plus 17,000 for Zach Johnson, just a quarter of a unit. Again, right in the garbage.
Yeah. Unlike you guys, I decided to go with a sport that I know very well. We're betting on darts. Woo! I am taking my guy Steve Beaton to win the PDC. I don't even know what the fuck that is. World Match Play. And I'm taking Sebastian Balake to win PDC World Championship. That combines for plus 3,839,000, and I'm putting a quarter of a unit on it. And when I win, I will be going to Europe. So,
I mean, it's in his name. He's going to be beating everyone, so I don't know how you could lose this.
yeah, but I also need Balake to pull it out for me. So,
Yeah.
all right, but that does it for this episode. We had Micah do a hot take last time. So, Jonathan, how about this time around? You take us out.
Damian Lillard is headed to the Oklahoma City Thunder.
That was lame. All right, good night.